Hi guys, Charlie Black 20 back again, and I've got my friend Chris in the seats.
How we doing?
Yeah, today, Chris literally just finished watching my first Nuremberg video, and he had some questions or some thoughts he wanted to share with me.
So the first real question I really had was, so apparently this was the first hybrid court to be
Police reported
to
an
be
act.
done internationally, apparently. So
Yes.
this set precedent for future trials in international courts, correct?
Yes, it did.
So what rulings and what bylaws do they follow during the international court? What rules did they establish during that time period?
Well, for one, a nation is not its own thing. It is made up of individuals in leadership of that nation. Therefore, you can try heads of state for criminal activity, such as breaking peace treaties, committing war crimes, a conspiracy to do those things, and
So-
of course, genocide or crimes against humanity.
So, out of curiosity, why didn't the President of the United States get charged with crimes against humanity with dropping the second nuclear bomb?
Well, for one, we were one of the four great powers. You couldn't try the victors. That's the realistic reason. But also because, unfortunately, even after Nuremberg and into today, the United States has not signed either Geneva Convention or signed on to the International Criminal Court. Therefore, we are not bound to it in our way.
So then, how are we a part of the UN? I thought one of the charters.
The UN is an alliance of various states, and in particular, it's meant to prevent wars from happening, not necessarily what happens during the war. That's to be tried after the war, if you can. And again, we're not signatories of it. We're a lot of the muscle behind a lot of the things that happen. So realistically, the United States could not be tried and will not be tried unless, we really start cleaning up. Unless the world cleans up its act, basically.
Yeah, like we do nuclear strikes on Iran.
If we did that, we would probably be considered, if we didn't have justification. Like, I always say that the only reason I can justify the atomic bomb of World War II is because it was a military necessity for the United States and the Allied powers. Like, Japan, yes, they were going to lose, but the only question was how many more soldiers, how many more supplies, how much more money, how much more death was there going to be if we didn't do the atomic bombs. And by and large, people agree that if we had invaded Japan, it would have been a bloodbath for both sides.
Well, humanity's need to make them pay in blood.
Yeah, in some ways, yes. But again, I still follow the logic that it was the correct move at the time militarily, and in some ways politically, because the two atomic bombs plus the Russian attack on Manchuria held by the Japanese persuaded the Japanese, forced them to say, no, we're going to give up right now. Not in a few months, not if we're invaded, we're going to do it now.
What was it? I'll tell you another thing that was really bad on the Japanese side. The invasion of Nanking was really, really bad.
Yeah, that was a horror. Absolutely. I mean, the way the Japanese treated the Chinese was absolutely horrific. I mean,
Oh yeah.
they killed more Chinese than the last war China fought against the European powers, for sure.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, I will say this, oddly enough, one of the saviors in Nanking, one of the good people of Nanking who saved over 300,000 Japanese lives, civilian lives, was a Nazi. His name was John Raub. He wrote personal appeals to Hitler asking him to help stop it. He displayed the swastika flag over the international zone, which is a protected zone, with other foreigners.
So it's like a demilitarization zone.
In a way, yes, but the Japanese regularly broke it to not only grab any unarmed prisoners they could grab, former also any women they could find.
Pleasure squads.
And it wasn't even, it was only when this foreigner, this John Rock, confronted them in his Nazi uniform and told them to basically get lost that they would listen.
Yeah.
But they still killed a lot. I mean, Nanking, there was a slaughter.
Oh yeah.
It wasn't, and there was no point to it other than brutality and terror.
Yeah. That segues to their relationships now. They're not very friendly with each other.
No. I mean, would you expect them to be?
I think if Japan can let go of being on my two sons, I think after about 80 years, I think
Well, you forget-
that bad blood should be let go, unless Japanese people can keep provoking the situation, which some of them, yeah, you're not wrong, yes, they do.
There's an even older history between Japan and China than you know. It wasn't just World War II. It was also all the way
Weak
going
man
back
of China, the
Yeah.
weak man of Asia, excuse me.
was
they go-
China, yeah. And then Japan, once they see how Europeans are carving up China, they realize, no, we need to modernize so it doesn't happen to us, and we need to do it fast. And they do, very quickly. It's called the Meiji Restoration period. But yeah, I mean, Nuremberg really set the precedent for international law and international, not cooperation, but international political finagling, rather than war as a means of political power.
So like extradition and shit like that.
Very much so. Like, at the time, a country could definitely request or demand that somebody be handed over, but there was no legalized process to do it. It was just hand them over. And if you didn't, what those countries, foreign agents or foreign dignitaries decided and gave to their leaders was what was decided, not a legalized process.
So now it's a process instead of, hey, just do as I say.
And if you refuse, there could be consequences based off of how our populace or our leaders feel.
Tariffs,
Yeah.
blockades, stuff of that nature.
Yeah, I mean, in many ways. There was still political wrangling before that, where, like, when, for example, when these two Confederate envoys to Britain and France were seized from a British ship by an American captain, the British, in particular, were furious. Like, how dare you board one of our ships and take two of our passengers? You
Don't
had no-
touch our boats.
Yeah, basically. And it took a lot of finagling politically for Lincoln to avoid a war with Britain in 1861 by saying, listen, you're not going to get an apology. We are going to promote this guy, this captain, but we will release the envoys. That's simple. No apology, but we are releasing the envoys, and you have our assurance it won't happen again.
Well, what I forgot. There was a I forgot which president it was. It was during a time period where Britain actually took over D.C. once again.
That was the War of 1812.
Yep.
The main thing about that what our justification for going to war with them at the time was over the naval stuff, naval treaties that we were supposed to be neutral between them and France, who were fighting Napoleonic wars at the time. But they kept, a lot of their sailors had deserted and had joined, had become quote-unquote American citizens, mainly by joining our navies, or privateers, or merchant crews. But the British would stop American ships under the threat of being sunk, find those deserters, if they were actually deserters, although many of them were that they did grab, and they would take them back. But we considered that them kidnapping American citizens by impressing them into the British Navy.
Okay. So what you're saying is America's always had a problem with people touching our boats.
Every nation has always had a problem with that. I would say that the British, the Americans, are a little more, and the Japanese are more sensitive to it because they always had large navies at the time. Nowadays,
yeah, well, they're kind of a
nowadays-
iron-locked nation, title-locked nation. So.
yeah, so Britain, they had their empire because of their ships, so they were very cognizant of that. So yeah, I mean,
find it funny.
So
that-
all this international stuff, I mean, Nuremberg really kind of, even though we entered the Cold War very soon after, and the idea of international law kind of, it didn't fall to the wayside, but it was kind of seen as something that, okay, we've done this, now we need to move forward with new priorities.
So, let me ask you this. Do you think it was kind of a 3D chess move to disinvite China from the National Space Station?
You mean these days? Or
Yeah,
when?
well, originally. Then they
when
then
was
they
that?
started to build their own space station, which actually kicked us into a position where we actually started to invest back into our space and aeronautics.
When was this?
I can't remember when it was, but
Well, I'll say this. There is no doubt that up until the end of World War II, we thought that we could have China as the fourth great power, or a fifth great power. But when we realized that their civil war was going to go on, and that they were going to be weaker, and probably communist, we were like, no, we don't want more communists at the table. And China's militarily and politically weak at the moment. So France became the fourth power because at the very least they are not communists.
they're French, though.
Hey, you take what you can get, right?
It could be worse, yes.
Oh, yeah.
But they're French.
Yeah.
There's nothing bad with French people. It's just a joke.
I know. We all make fun of the French these days. But I mean, everybody agrees they reached the height of their power right at Napoleon. After that, unfortunately, their power, still a great power, not the great power. No.
Unfortunately, a lot of countries have fallen off.
Yeah. And that's there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with being your own nation and not being the biggest power on the block.
Yeah, I think we are at the wrong one. Yeah, we're definitely at the wrong one, but we could get to the right one. It's not a problem.
But yeah, do you have any more questions about Nuremberg so far?
Nuremberg's pretty straightforward. Other than like, alright, so Nuremberg is interesting, but the war crimes that how would I put this? Canada.
Okay.
Canada has committed quite a few war crimes. Why didn't they get charged as well?
During World War II?
Yeah.
Well, exactly the same reason with the U.S., but also because, one, they were way more localized. They were not nearly so widespread. They weren't. You could easily find a spot where they did this. You could find the particular spot. The Nuremberg trial was an overarching crime trial. So people like Hitler, Goebbels, Himmler, Goering, they committed crimes across continents. It was geographic crimes. You couldn't have a specific location where they did this. This isn't like the site of a massacre. This was everywhere across Europe they were committing crimes.
So
they were issuing illegal orders that affected millions of people. So that's why, in one way, but also because a lot of the crimes that the Canadians and other United States, British, and French units committed
In 1 mile,
were much
use the right
smaller
lane to
scale
exit
and
right.
could be tried
Then
under
use the
their
right lane
own
to turn
military
right on Fifth
courts,
Street.
which some were. There were prosecutions of U.S. soldiers for the slaughter of Italian soldiers in Sicily. But the problem is that, well, one, how do you try them? And two, what do you do with them? And some were sentenced to like hard labor. Others were let go due to lack of evidence. I mean, there was a legalized process for them. You weren't trying the lowest level guys for Nuremberg. You were trying the highest up, and you went down the list
Exit
during
right to exit
during the
120.
subsequent Nuremberg
Virginia
trials.
631.
fair, I guess.
Fifth
I
Street toward Charlottesville.
I think that
Then use the right lane to turn right on Fifth Street.
if you're going to charge one, you should treat all within the same parameters of the law. But
Well, again,
Use
Then
the
they,
right
again,
lane to turn right
but
on
again,
Fifth
there was a
Street.
different situation. The criminal activity of the Nazis was government. The criminal activity that happened with soldiers is under the jurisdiction of their military units and their officers. They have a legal code of justice. Like even the Nazis had one for like desertion,
I'm gonna
disobeying
send-
orders. The
In a quarter of a
Canadians were under the British,
Turn right
so
on Fifth
they
Street
had to
Station
follow
Park.
their
I'm gonna
laws.
send you
Then
the
turn right on
actual
Wigman's Way.
address. Here you go. This is the actual address.
Turn right on 5th Street Station Parkway.
We're in the wrong
Then
place.
turn right on Wigman's
Ah,
Way.
My fault.
Well,
think.
guys. Well, I'll catch you guys later.